Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for attending the Fireside interview with Professor O'Connell. And thank you, Professor O'Connell, for coming and making tonight possible. Now, a little background on Professor O'Connell. He has been an FYDP mentor for 3 years at GWU, is a digital storyteller and founder of FYN Creative, which helps create digital storytelling and video productions for startup clients, and a founder of the Niche Movement, which is a global community connecting with over 5,000 people to help students find jobs they are passionate about outside of a customary job searches. He has been a TEDx speaker and adjunct instructor on campuses, and as an FYDP mentor, he is passionate about helping students to learn about themselves and be able to best present themselves going into professional workspaces. With that, I will now hand it off to Ariana, and later there will be a question and answer portion from the audience.
I feel like I'm on a big interview committee with you guys like taking notes. I feel like I'm being critiqued.
All right, so the first thing I want to start off asking is, how did you develop the passion to help people create their own story, and how did you develop your own?
All right, so let's start here. Let's change the word story to finding like their own niche or passion or career. So before, some of you know me as an instructor here at GW or as an entrepreneur. I left college. I graduated in May of 2006 with a traditional fancy marketing degree, and 6 weeks into that summer, I was just like, what are you doing with your life? Like, I did not want to go in traditional corporate marketing, market research, PR firms. I didn't see myself doing that, but yet that was the trajectory I was on. I enrolled into a 5th-year comms master program. I had a graduate assistantship. I was working at a PR agency that I absolutely hated, commuting in an hour and a half each way, and I hated it. And that propelled me to flip my career and my resume upside down, and I wound up getting a job at a very, very small university in New Jersey called Centenary College. And that was my match and spark that lit me up into working with college students for 8 years. So I worked in student affairs, so worked with college students doing service learning, like Habitat for Humanity trips, campus recreation, student leadership, event programming, and I loved every single minute of it. So those 8 years, Ariana, I worked with hundreds of student leaders like many of you, and what I kept seeing was them going from thriving student leader that loved their life and loved college and loved doing things like this on a Wednesday night, to then taking that first job for $45,000, $55,000, $100,000, and talking to them like a month later, a year later, 2 years later, and being like, I hate my life. And I asked them why. They say, I hate my boss, I don't like the company, I don't like there was a lot of factors. And so that's what helped me kind of realize, like, wow, I'm trying to help college students and young professionals find their niche, help them craft their story, not rely on a one-page resume, not rely on a 60-minute interview. So that's kind of what sparked helping other young professionals and college students, was me taking my own leap of faith at 22 years old, and then working 8 years, and then seeing all these students and starting to see the different threads of why they were unhappy. And so I started the niche movement in 2012, and that was like my side hustle. So. And
how do you approach them at first? What's the first response really they give you if they're not open to kind of admitting that they don't like their position? Or?
It's an interesting question. I think a lot of students, a lot of college grads say, well, no, it's a really good company, or no, I'm getting paid a good amount of money. Like I can. They basically are trying to wear them down. Like, no, I can just do this because the money's good, or like it's a really, it's a top 5 accounting or consulting firm. So I think they use that tricks them, like in the short term of like, yeah, I'm making really good money, or this is a really good company. And I don't think they start to realize it until like 3, 4, 5, 6 years in. And I have friends that have worked for the PwCs of the world, and then all of a sudden, I think it really started to hit them was when they started to like get married and have families, and been like, wow, it's not about the 6-figure paycheck. It's not about trying to make partner. And so that's when it finally kicked in, not when they were 23, 24, 25. So.
Did any of them ever express to you that sometimes what they learned in school wasn't necessarily the skills they needed for the job that they had? Or?
Yeah. Listen, teaching in the business school for the last 3 years, there's several of you that like need to be well taught and well-versed in data analytics, in finance, accounting, getting your CPA. Like those are things that like are very black and white. But I think the skills that we try to teach, especially like in FYDP, are the real skills. The skills of like how to like lighten up a room and converse and not take life and business so serious, and how to present and how to pitch yourself and all these different soft skills. And so there's a lot of gray area in the fact that you guys are in this business fraternity, and that you not only will have an alumni base of other brothers in this fraternity, but you're actually doing stuff like this. And the fact that, I mean, I met Ariana 10 weeks ago, and the fact that now like you have the confidence and skill set to plan one of these events, run it, and now like interview, like these are the skills I think that will, like I could see you doing this in 5 years in your first job interviewing like the CEO of the company you just got hired to work for. So like these are the intangible skills in my opinion.
What do you think has been your biggest accomplishment thus far? Besides, giving back to people and helping students.
I have one, and this is unfortunately tied to finance. I left my job at Rutgers University October of 2014, and I just celebrated my 5-year anniversary of working full time for myself, owning these 2 companies and adjuncting all that stuff. And there was one milestone where I like hit the revenue I brought in for myself was what I was making at Rutgers in the first year. And then my next goal was like, let me get to 6 figures in revenue for my businesses. And last year I was so freaking close. Like it was literally like December 30th. I'm like, what else can I do? Like get this close. And just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I signed on a new client, and I just broke the 6-figure mark for a 10-month span of revenue. So it pretty much made me cry, because I was like, I just did this on my own in 10 months on my own and I'm not working for the man, I'm not working for a boss, like I am my own boss. So like, yes, that's a financial intrinsic or extrinsic goal, and that's an accomplishment, but the complete opposite side of that is I get to say yes to stuff like this. Like I can say, this is when I want to work, where I want to work, who I want to work with. Like Eric, who's back there, and one of the reasons I said yes to doing this is Eric can help me like record this and stuff, but Eric's one of our videographers, and we had a creative meeting yesterday with a client, and I basically put at the bottom of the agenda for our creative meeting, like, here are the dates we are not available. Like, and I can decide, like, I want to take off from December 15th to January 15th or January 4th, and like, no one can do anything about that. So the freedom and flexibility to work where, when, and who I want with is the other side of it.
Yeah, so in some ways you think the freedom is maybe more valuable than the actual tangible?
Yeah, some days it is, but like, yeah, there's literally some moments where I'm like, this is the best thing in the world being an entrepreneur, and then there's like literally, I was just telling a fellow entrepreneur today over lunch, I was like, I woke up at 3 a.m. out of nowhere, and I'm thinking about 3 business things, and I'm like, this sucks. Yeah. So like, it's for the people that do work full time and go, work for a boss like that, the gap between loving and hating your job in those moments are like this far apart. When you go to work for yourself, like the ups and the downs are like polar opposite, because you literally could have an amazing day, get an amazing email, land a client, and then the next day or next it just flips, and you're like, this is awful. But
how do you deal with that? How do you get through that?
I won't lie, like in front of this crowd again, I've been at this 5 years. I'd say at least I can count on one hand that I've thought about job searching or actually been on job boards and be like, I could just bag this, probably go make twice as much money, but I don't, because it's something that I've created and that I want to do. But as far as how I manage it, I think about a year ago's time I realized, one, like I need to, my mental health and physical health are very tied together. And so when I'm stagnant and not moving and not doing stuff, because that's the other thing, a lot of my business is very like cyclical and stuff. Like, so there's some weeks and some months and days where it's just on and I'm busy, and then there's like this summer, I don't think we did any video work, right? Like we were very quiet this summer. So like my mental health and physical health are very tied to one another, and so when I'm like working out and I'm busy and I'm around people and I'm accountable to people, like my mental health is really good. But the minute like I get in my own head and I have time to think and have downtime, too much downtime, that's when I'm like, I overthink stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so some of us who have had you for FYDP, we know you spoke at TED. You did a TEDx talk in 2014.
Yeah, and totally bombed.
Yeah. Do you want to speak a little bit about that, or
Yeah,
how you overcame it?
So for Camilla and JT and a few other people, you've heard this story, but I started the initiative in 2012. 2 years later, I said, all right, like I've written a blog, I've formed a community, and I had this whole talk and mindset of like, I think you guys should skip your career fair, and I still believe that. And like my peers here that have hired me to like instruct at FYDP and in business school will hate hear me say that, but like, if you think about it, you go to your career fair, everybody else is dressed the same, has the same exact resume, and wants the same exact thing. I think you need to go to other events. So anyway, I had that whole premise, and I had a 10 or 12-minute talk prepared, at least I thought. And I signed up for this TEDx talk at New York Institute of Technology. And I go there, and I didn't know like where I was in the lineup, but they told me, oh, you're the last person. And so as the night went on, the room got more filled and more filled and more filled. And I just kept like having more anxiety and more butterflies and more like, oh my God. And because I like had the talk and then I started preparing and then I really didn't start like formulating my content until, I'll be completely honest, like 48 hours out, I got on stage and I saw the lights drop. I could only see the front row, and I saw the two cameras, and everything went out of my head. Like literally, I couldn't even think of the word hello, like everything. And so I wanted to run through the wall and leave, but I basically stepped off and took a deep breath. I saw my wife and a couple other people were like, you got this. And you could actually feel the room kind of get up out of their seats and be like, oh my God, like what's gonna happen here? And I got back on and I delivered what I wanted to. I said what I wanted to say. It wasn't my best talk, but I got the message across. So like a 10 or 12-minute talk, I think was whittled down to like 8.5, 7.5 minutes. It's not my best. I don't like sharing. I don't like promoting it. But it was out there. And the story that I've shared since then is that was February of 2014. September, October of 2014, I left Rutgers, went on my own. From October 2014 to the following December, I did somewhere in the ballpark of about 19 different speaking opportunities, trainings, workshops, webinars where I actually got up in front of people. This size room, bigger rooms, like, so I just kept at it again. Yeah.
So your talk focuses a lot, not going to your career fair,
Mm-hmm.
Differentiating yourself.
Yeah.
So what's your advice for us as business students to kind of make our own atypical path?
Yeah. So I think one would recognize that you need to do that you should do that. Again, unless you are on the pre-law, pre-med, or finance, whatever, like there's certain black and white things that you need to do, but I think one, realizing you need to be atypical. And so you guys have all went through FYDP. I think if I had everybody bring their resume tonight, I think the only two things that would be different is your name and your major, but the format, because there's a format, it's all gonna be the same. So I think a couple things you can do is figure out what digital outlet you feel comfortable creating content, sharing content, and connecting with other people on. Yes, we drew in your head like LinkedIn is the platform, but I have, in our class I just came from, Carrie Ann, I could see her like having a YouTube channel and an Instagram channel. Like she's very creative. LinkedIn may not be for her, but her career field is in like the publication, media, creative space. So find an outlet that you could not be afraid to, like if you guys don't take a picture of this event tonight in some form or fashion, like you saw me take one back here, and you don't like take a picture and then write a recap, whether that's on LinkedIn, Instagram, your blog, you're missing out of content in your own story. And then the third thing I would do is you got to figure out, like, I just was meeting with the case study teams. What are the things that you're doing in the class and out of the class that you could turn into a portfolio item or a blog post or something that could go on your LinkedIn profile, but something that is a talking point that doesn't fit on your resume. because you have to have one page, X amount of bullet points, but there's got to be a million other things that don't make your resume that an employer would love to talk to you about or hire you for. So those are just a few ways. There's actually a great, I'd be more happy to send it or pass on to you. There's the New York Times Insight Group did a whole report on the 6 digital identities and why and how we share content. And it really breaks down that second mentality I had of pick a platform, create content, and share it. I'd be more happy to pass that on to you guys, and you might align yourself with a few of those identities.
So going off that, what are some ways that you think us students can utilize LinkedIn and social media to really help us find employment and optimize our chances and awareness?
So what I see is, and the analogy I might have given in some of my classes, how many people have a LinkedIn account? Yeah, because you have to. If not, I think you get kicked out of GWU or something, or the business school. It's like you guys just inherited a $250,000 Ferrari or Lamborghini, but then you park it in the garage and you never drive it. That is literally my opinion of LinkedIn. So you can have a beautiful headshot, a nice filled out about me section, et cetera, but if you are not on there at least once a week, if not 2 to 3 times a week. And listen, I'm not saying you need to be posting stuff, but if you're not on there looking at the right-hand side of different trends and different news articles and different things that are breaking, and you're not commenting or creating content on things, so if you're in fintech or in startup world and there's stuff going on about Uber or WeWork or investment banking, you're not clicking on that article and then commenting on people's points of view, you're missing the boat. Because in my opinion, if I saw like, what's your name?
Nathan.
If I saw Nathan comment on one of my posts and he was reflecting on like marketing or social media, and I saw it was Nathan, sophomore at GW, I'd be like, I've never seen a college student comment on my thread. I see all these professionals. You would stand out to me. So that would be one way. And the second is not be afraid to, a lot of people go to these events, and this is a little bit of a smaller event, but a lot of people go to these events where you're like, oh my God, I gotta meet that panelist. I gotta meet that keynote speaker. And then all of a sudden, the line is too long, or the person leaves, and you don't have that chance, and you're like, I will never see that person again. Why not just go on their Twitter, their Instagram, their email, or their LinkedIn, and literally that night or the next day be like Kevin, I was at that event. That was so inspiring. Thank you for that insight you shared about entrepreneurship. It was really great. I quickly checked out more about you. Just want to say, hey, I would love to connect with you. Just want to say, great talk. You can do that without actually getting to meet them in person. And they may not reply back, but if you share like a 3-sentence like a real human sentence or paragraph, I think a lot of people will appreciate that. So, yeah.
So I did send most of your information to the rest of the pledge class.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the niche movement, your agency?
Yep. So 80% of a lot of what we've just been talking about the first 10 minutes, 80% of my world is, so when I graduated from undergrad, I had that marketing degree. I then went on to work for a university that luckily paid 9/10 of my master's degree, and so I got a master's degree in leadership and higher education. And I started to merge those together, but when I was at Rutgers working there, I quickly became the marketing degree, and digital marketing and digital media never left me. So when I left Rutgers, my job at the time was assistant director of digital media and marketing, something like that. So I was always like a digital storyteller, social media person at heart. And so when I left to go full time, a lot of what was pulling me out of Rutgers was the niche movement, and I was in the middle of writing a book. But the practical side of what was actually going to pay my bills, and when I realized like, oh shoot, I only have 60 days of health insurance and income left, I actually need to do something that will actually pay the bills. I put on my digital hat and I was like, all right, I took a freelance gig here, I took a freelance gig there, I did consulting here, I did a campaign there. And believe it or not, GW was my first big video project. Yeah, in March and April of 2015, we did a whole mini documentary on Lemonade Day DC, and they were one of my first big video clients. So that's 80% of our world, running FYN Creative, which we do training and consulting, and then actually production and video work. And then the other 20% is, or the other 10% is teaching here at GWU and at General Assembly. I would highly recommend checking out General Assembly. They have a lot of great classes and workshops, boot camps, different, like if you're looking at data analytics stuff and coding and things like that, it's a great alternative program here in addition to GW. And then the other percent is the niche movement world. So speaking on that, running workshops, and keeping that community afloat.
So how do you encourage creative thinking in your agency and getting everyone on the same page and communicating the same core values?
Yeah. Under promise, over deliver. Those are what I live by personally and professionally. So that's kind of my core values is, can we do that internally? So like, example, like under promise, over deliver, Eric will say, hey, I'll be there at 6. I know he's gonna be there at 5:55. Hey, we have a client deadline and it's on Tuesday. We're gonna get that project to them on Monday. Hey, we've been hired to do X, Y, and Z for the scope of work. I'm gonna throw in like one extra thing or like they're gonna ask for something else and I'm not gonna bill them for it. But as far as creativity goes, I hate doing the same thing over and over again. That's one of the reasons I left my full-time job. Like I hated the same semester, the same project, the same this and that. And so I think a couple of our intangible skills is when clients come to us and say, hey, we know we think we need a video, we have a story to tell, we know we need to say this in a different format, but we don't know where to start, we don't know how to do it. I like coming in with a clean slate. What I dislike is when clients are like, I'm all about getting inspiration from clients, but I don't like when they're like, hey, like we did this video last year, we pretty much want to do the same thing. We do it because I value what they want and I understand there's only so many creative boundaries they can push, but like I cringe inside and I scream on my pillow at night sometimes like, I don't want to do the same thing we just did. I want to do the polar opposite, or I want to do something completely different. And one of the projects we're working on, we're doing a similar video, which is great, and which internally that tells me that they like that format. We did something good, but like the way we broke the creative boundary was we were like, instead of interviewing all 4 of your board members in a conference room, how about we go to each of their offices and have a different backdrop for all 4? Yeah. And that was pushing your creative boundaries for them, but like that's as far as we could get. So.
And do you usually find that it's hard to communicate that to certain clients? Or how do you go? Did you personally do that, or you have a team do that?
No, so like it's me, Eric, and Josh for FYN Creative pretty much, and maybe 1 or 2 other people. But so that's the other thing of my world is I am the creative director, I'm the digital storyteller, I'm the entrepreneur, I'm the accounts receivable, I'm the billing, I'm the one that gets the brunt of like, we don't like this, and then I have to read that to the team. So like I wear like 6, 7 different hats, and I'm trying to find different ways to like separate those out. But now in year 5 of my business, Ariana, I think what I've been able to do, and I'm very lucky for this, is a lot of my client requests and a lot of work that comes my way, thank God, is inbound. So then I can determine, 1, do I want to work with you? 2, if you're going to work with me, this is how I work. So now I've developed a whole process of like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. This is what you want. Well, this is how I work. So if you want to work with me, I require a 20-minute discovery call with any decision. Like I have a whole process, and I can quickly learn like, will there be internal politics? Will they have a budget? Like what? So I kind of like cooking and being a chef. I try to set up 80% of in the creative meeting and the onboarding, I try to take care of 80% of that work before we even like get in the creative world of taking out a camera and interviewing people.
So, what is one thing or 2 things that you look for in someone when you hire them, their core characteristics?
They have to be able to prove that they can under-promise and over-deliver. But what I look for, so one thing is, this is just my opinion. Anybody else you bring up here professionally, you're going to have completely different opinions, especially because they're in completely different fields and they've had different professional upbringings. I'm a little bit more lax and informal, so just take my advice for what it is. I do look for people that are typical. So like for example, I didn't wind up hiring this one GW student, and the names escape me, so I don't know if you're in the room, but she applied through Handshake, which I just get bombarded with stuff through Handshake, and I generally check it like once every 2 months. But she made the extra effort to like find my email and whatever and send me like an actual nice non-robotic email and said, hey Kevin, like just wanting you to know I found your job opportunity. I applied through Handshake. I did what you asked. Blah blah blah. But like if you have any time, I'd love for you to look at my resume. And within the next week or so, we had a phone call. And we had a couple phone calls over the summer. Just didn't work out. So I look for people that can go the typical or unconventional route. And then the second or third thing I look for is, do you have a body of work? Do you have something that you can talk about outside of like your resume? And it doesn't, again, whether you're in finance, whether you're in data analytics, whatever it might be, you should have something that you can bring or talk about in an interview. And then the third thing is, like, do you have a personality? Just in my field, in my mindset, I would rather, there's been several people, I would rather sacrifice skill, equipment, etc., over personality, because I'd rather have people that I know I can trust with a client. I'd rather have people that I would like to work with and that I think would actually want to be here and listen, versus somebody that's like has all the skills and all the certifications and all the 4.0 average. But again, that's me in my environment as an entrepreneur. Somebody at Booz Allen or Deloitte, they might want everything by the textbook. So take that advice for what it is.
And then what is something that really surprised you about your job and starting your own business, something that caught you off guard, be it a challenge or something positive?
One, how supportive my wife has been. She was the one who, when I came home one day frustrated at Rutgers, she was literally like, okay, we'll figure this out. And so she's been super supportive, and that's hasn't surprised me, but like the longevity and these ups and downs, like she's been there for me. The second thing is I'm a big worrier. Like the fact that like I went and took that risk, and I had 60 or so days of income and health insurance, and now like 5 years later, I think I'm starting to make it. I worry a lot. So the fact that like this is actually working out, and the universe is, now that what I just said, like people are contacting me to speak, and people are contacting me to work with us, and this and that. It weirds me out. Like I'm very surprised by that that this is all actually working out. So yeah.
And besides your immediate family, besides your wife, did you ever receive some kind of backlash, or people didn't believe in you when you first started, and how did you handle that?
I didn't. I remember going up to Lake George in New York, or no, where was it? Yeah, it was summer of 2014 where I went up to visit my parents, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking, like I'm writing this book, I'm doing this, like I think someday, like pretty soon I'm gonna leave my job. And they never, like my mom is a warrior too, but they never were like, they never have backlash or like, don't do this. But they were a little bit like, you gonna be all right? Like, and then I remember 3 or 4 months later in October, I don't even think I told them I left, but I remember October 6th was my first day without a paycheck. And October 5th, we were again visiting them. My wife, we were all together. And I remember going into the room and I was like, so tomorrow I officially start my job as working for myself. And they're like, wait, you left? I was like, yeah, I left. And I didn't tell them previously. So yeah, no backlash. No, thank God.
And when you left your work, did you build relationships where you were able to contact people from there?
Yeah, so within the first 6 months, I went back to Rutgers and did a whole social media training for their dining services department. Just back in March, my former boss, Paul, hired me to come in and talk to all his recreation students. And then I just spoke at a higher ed and recreation conference back in February. So like I still have ties to that. Here's one thing, and I don't think I've really shared this publicly, that my wife does think this is creepy. One part of motivation that I have on my phone is all the people I've sent proposals to, or that have wanted to work with me, or I thought wanted to work with me, that have literally ghosted me. This happens in the professional world. Ghosted me. Like they've strung me along through 3, 4, 5 meetings, proposals, this, that. And I say, hey, where are we at? Are we doing this? Ghosted. I have a note on my phone of people that said no to me, and when things get tough, I look at that and be like, it's like kind of the ex-girlfriend list. Like I just like look at that and I'm like, I'm just like, screw you, like I'm still surviving. And like that's sometimes my motivation when like I'm really like down in the dumps. The people that said no to me or ghosted me. So it's weird, and I don't know why I admitted it, but like that's the fuel that fires, that fires my, so.
Okay, great. So now we have some questions from the pledges or brothers, if any of you have any interest.
I'm literally an open book. If you want to go professional, entrepreneurship, personal, college, I don't care. I'll let you know if I don't want to answer it. Nathan.
Do you think you could expand, excuse me, on the idea you said that we should just skip the career fair?
Yeah, that's a loaded statement. Yeah. What specifically could I provide clarity around, or like what are you thinking about
So
when
like,
I say
why
that?
should we skip it? What should we do instead?
Yeah. So what I just said, you go to these career fairs, again, don't get me wrong, like if you are diehard Deloitte, like I named these companies, like if you are diehard that route, please go. But I remember seeing this at Rutgers. They had a business school event in our rec center one day, and literally if you weren't I think they had it down to the palette color, I'm kind of joking, but like if you weren't in a black suit with black shoes, like I saw like 50 kids get turned away because like they had different colored shoelaces or this or that, or like their tie was loose, and I'm just like, what are we doing? And like whether you can afford or can't afford a suit, this or that, like I'm sorry. There's a couple things that I see. One, Pepsi is at that career fair because Coke is at that career fair, okay? And those companies pay the money to go there. I remember walking in, I saw Colgate toothpaste passing out toothbrushes. These are marketing, like for most companies, those are marketing dollars. Just my opinion. So the fact that we're turning away kids based on dress, the fact that these companies are there because their competitors there. Yes, some companies are actually hiring, but you really need to like stand out to really get your resume passed on, and that's where the conversational skills come on. And then the other thing is what I said is like, imagine all of you going there with the same similar suit, similar resume, similar objective. Like, put yourself in the recruiter's position and have you stand there for 3 hours and have Nathan and what's your name? Claire and Ariane all come up. Hey, like. One, no one's going to stand out to you very rarely, but you like, are you really going to go back and look at 600 resumes? So that's one. You're going with the crowd. You're not being atypical or unconventional. Versus you literally could take a half-a-mile walk and go into WeWork White House and go to some crazy fintech or data analytics event, and you will be the only college student there. And you'll shake that person's hand and be like, what brings you here tonight? We're in a room of 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds. Like, oh, I'm really interested in this stuff. And then you can actually have a conversation, and I'm sorry, Claire's not there bumping into you, like, oh, I want a job. I want to talk to that person. I went to Fairleigh Dickinson University up in Madison, New Jersey. Great school, loved it, but like it literally was blocked in like with brick walls. And the closest thing we had was Moorestown. There was not much going on off that campus, but the fact that you literally could go to Alexandria, we had one of my students went to Old Town Alexandria last weekend to a Harvard Business Review entrepreneurship event. I said, how'd it go? He's like, it was super awkward. There were 6 people there, and I was the only college student. I'm like, did it push your comfort zone? He said, yep. I said, how was it? He's like, it was actually really good. I got to talk to everybody. I mean, it's all about odds. So you guys have access to it. Go on Eventbrite, go on Meetup. So those are the things I would do. And they may not have the label of career fair, but I think you have a better shot if you have the personal skills to actually like get somebody's card and have an interaction that they want to meet up for coffee. Then they say, hey, send me your resume. When we have an opening, I'll look at it. So that was a great kickoff question, Nathan. What else we got? I want to see who has the craziest question tonight. Go ahead.
How do you see like the industry working evolving over the next couple of years?
So let's say with digital marketing and digital storytelling. In the last 2 years for digital storytelling and everything, I've seen a complete influx in video work. So meaning like everybody, now organizations realize regardless if they're for-profit, non-profit, small, big, startup, they realize like there's the power of video, which is great. But I think the first thing I recognize is they don't know what to do with that video. Meaning, for example, we just recorded a big full-day conference for a client. I don't know what they're doing with the content. We literally sent them like 200 gigs of footage. And like, I think they might cut together the panel stuff, but I'm like, you literally could have 52 weeks of content here should you choose to like cut it up and do stuff with it. So that or like a lot of people try to take a nice fancy video and put it on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever, versus they should all look different on each platform. So that's one, is like video's great, but like understand the nuances of like the video you see on Facebook or Instagram or stories or whatever is different than a video you watch on like Netflix. The second thing is, I'm curious just here, do any of you guys have an Alexa, an Apple HomePod, or a Google in your res halls? Yeah? Yeah? Are you, like, how are you using it? Or do you use it? Or is it just listening?
Honestly, mostly playing music.
Sure. And that's how people are using
And
it.
I totally know that's like I'm not making most of it.
Yeah, yeah. Here's what you guys, here's one reason I feel like you guys should all have one of those in your room. I wake up every morning now when I'm brushing my teeth or shaving. I say, Alexa, what's my news? It gives me CNN, Wall Street Journal, Business Insider, and one other thing. And within 6 minutes, without doing anything with my hands and my phone's still charging downstairs, I get the news. And I get it from Wall Street. Like, I get it from really great places. I don't have to read an email. But I think voice skills, voice marketing, that's the next trend. And the companies that you might go work for, these big Fortune 1000s, if they aren't doing something with voice and aren't understanding that, then like they're going to start to fall behind. I think we're using it for play music and the weather and all that, but I think there's going to be more to that. Other things, Facebook bots, Messenger bots, those are big things. Facebook messaging. So those are things that I'm seeing that need to be integrated into marketing and organizations and things like that. Go ahead.
Follow-up question: how do you see the niche movement in FYN Creative going forward in the next few years?
Yeah. So I generally try to live in 90-day spurts, both financially as well as like goals and what I'm working on. But one of the things I'm trying to work on right now is, and Eric, I don't think he's even heard this, like I do like doing video work, but sometimes it can get super intensive. Like, right, Eric, when we were doing the COG videos, we literally had like a body bag of gear and backpacks in elevators going through security at the Ronald Reagan building. And sometimes, you know, I'm 36, I'm kind of like, I don't want to be lugging this shit around when I'm 40. Like I like interviewing, I like doing the video, but like that side of it. So I think I might be more selective and continue to raise my prices of the type of video work we do. And what I'm trying to transition to more is training, speaking, and I would even love to continue to try to teach more in some type of setting. Because believe it or not, like if you asked me when I was in high school what I was gonna do is I was gonna go be a golf coach and a social studies teacher. So teach some type of teaching and speaking was in my blood, or in my mind at least. But so those are things I'm looking to evolve, and so that could be niche movement or FYN Creative.
Who do you look up to?
Hmm.
Maybe professional or personal level.
Yeah. Listen, my wife, my parents, I look up to them. I'll give two. My father-in-law is going to be 85 in December, and he was a CPA. He had his own. He was in the Marines, then went to Temple, worked for a year or two as a CPA, and then was like, screw this, I'm going to start my own firm. And he did that for like 55, 60 years. Retired about 5 years ago, semi-retired. But he looks like he's 65. He golfs 3 days a week. He bikes. Like, he's got it going on for 85. And he had his own business, had his own life, had a country club membership, had 4 great kids, etc. So that's somebody that I look up to. And then the other person I look up to, and I think some of you might know them, I think you said I love what Gary Vaynerchuk does as an entrepreneur. I kind of view myself as like the lower level, no-name version of that. But Gary Vaynerchuk is like a serial entrepreneur, runs VaynerMedia. I have a couple former students that work for his agency and says like it's the best place to work. But I like looking up to him as well. Yeah. But I'm not trying to become a millionaire or buy the New York Jets like he is. I'm just trying to like have a nice living. So, yeah. I think you had a question, then we'll go back to Claire.
So you mentioned when you're hiring people, you want them to have like a body of work outside their resume.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like say more to what that means? Is that like professional or personal?
Mm-hmm.
Or give examples?
Yeah. The example I used in one of my recent talks was, and using these 6 digital identities, one of them is called hipsters, and they're the type of people that put out like creative work and they understand TikTok, Instagram, video, etc. But I use my cousin Leah as an example. She is closer to your age. She's 24, 25. She graduated from TCNJ with a journalism degree, then did a master's degree at Syracuse. Believe it or not, she now works for Net-a-Porter or something, some high-end fashion company. But she started a side Instagram account called Posey the Pug for her my aunt and uncle's dog, Posey. It's a pug, obviously. And she would post that like every single day. Even in grad school, she would have her parents send pictures. And I literally was telling her, like, Leah, your copywriting, your captioning, your understanding of Instagram is just on point right now. And I'm pretty sure she somehow worked that into her portfolio, or like at least could understand like, hey, I can do content and iPhone photography and Instagram for companies. So it could be something as crazy like that. What I tell other fellow colleagues that are in student affairs, like you guys might come to us and be like, you're gonna start a pug Instagram account? That's the stupidest idea. I, on the other hand, would be like, run with it and see what the hell happens. Again, that's if you want to get into the creative marketing world. But maybe for finance, you start your own portfolio, or you start a blog and you are writing about what's happening with WeWork and the F-up of all of that. Like, there's just a blog. There's a lot of options, and it could be personal or professional. Yep. Sorry, Claire. We'll go.
So when you came to like pivotal decisions,
Mm-hmm.
what instances did you use your like gut instincts, and in other instances kind of like using rational thinking?
I don't do cost benefit analysis. I'm not that formal or that crazy. But so here's one example. Went out on my own October 2014. Around February of 2015, so like 3 or 4 months after I was on my own, I had an opportunity with a big higher education client to do some consulting work. And I was like, man, this could be pretty cool. This could be pretty big. It's a well-known association. And as I got working, as we were kind of figuring this out, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know how this is going to work out. And sure enough, I wound up doing work for them for about 2 years. And thank God I worked with their executive director, who kind of had my back and allowed me to consult and do some creative work with them. But like, can be completely honest, like working with the rest of that team as a client was tough. And from day one, I was like, this isn't gonna end well, this doesn't feel right. And sure enough, it was always an uphill battle. But I stuck it out because cost benefit analysis, I had to be practical. Like it was a good gig, paid well, whatever, and I needed to do it. And I did it, but it was very painful. Does that answer your original question, or some pivotal decisions? Part of it's practical, other parts of it are like, I think I know how this is gonna go. Again, for me, it's all like if I'm in a spot professionally and financially where I could say no, I'll say no. Like I could have said no tonight, but I was like, no, like I totally would want to do this. I love being at GW. This is an opportunity for me to speak and talk about some different things. So part of it's gut, but also it's like if I like this would be a great client to work with, or like it's a good deal that will help provide financial runway for the company, I'd probably try to do it. Yeah. Sorry, Claire.
No worries. So with the amount of pressure placed on us students today to enter like high salary fields,
Yeah.
You've touched on it a little bit, but what advice can you give us to have the courage to follow our passions rather than the money?
So the one thing that you guys have that I didn't have is you guys have George Washington University School of Business. And if you want to go that Fortune 1000 route and top consulting firm, top accounting firm, you guys can all probably do that. But I think what you guys need to realize is you also can fall back. Fallback's not the right word. You can look for other GWU alum that did go unconventional route, or maybe they worked for 5 years and said, you know what, that world is not for me. And I think you need to find those people if that's something you're thinking of. So to try to get some mentorships, like, yeah, I did go through the 5-year MBA program, blah, 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 but then 2 years later I realized it wasn't for me. Find those people and find out, like, well, when did you realize it? What did you do? Things like that. The second thing is going back to the practicality piece, like that went, listen, some of you are going to get a 6-figure salary line in front of you at 22 years old. That is enticing, super enticing. And I think a lot of people would probably be like, wow, you're going to turn that down or not do it. A lot of people might think you're crazy. But you might do it, and you might do it for a year or two. And maybe you take that $100,000 salary or $50,000 salary and you cut it in half and say, I'm going to use that and pay all my student loans off. I'm going to take the other half of that money and I'm going to put it in savings. Because then a year or two in, instead of going back for an MBA, you could be like, cool, now I'm going to go from a $100,000 job to go work for a nonprofit for $65,000. And you can be practical with that. One of the best pieces of advice I had from a fellow young professional I interviewed for the niche movement, this guy Trevor, he's the chief marketing officer at Social Tables, a startup here in DC. Somebody asked him, like, hey, how do you know if or when I should go back for an MBA? And I think that's the obvious route for a lot of people in your position. And he said, well, what if instead of spending another $100,000 or $200,000 on an MBA over 2 years, and you're in debt, and then 2 years later you're in the same boat, what if you actually just change careers, take a $30,000 or $20,000 pay demotion, and within 2 years you could be back up to what you're making and you never go in debt. So those are some ways to look at it. But the number one factor I haven't brought up is I'm sure a lot of your brothers, sisters, and parents will be like, well, they went to this school, or they're doing this, and that's what a lot of other thought leaders talk about. So like, some of your parents might want you to go work for the big company. And I don't know. That's a decision you guys have to make or work out with them. Go ahead.
Could you speak a little bit about like the mental health strain of being an entrepreneur and how you deal with self-doubt and
Yeah.
what might come up?
Yeah. I'll be the first to admit, as much as I'm talking and feeling confident saying like, hey, I'm 5 years in, I've hit this revenue stream, wearing all those hats some days gets tiring. We just shared a video with a nonprofit client the other day, and literally like every time I press send on a project, I'm like, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna feel? Like, are they gonna like it? Because I hate that turmoil of like, did we, especially clients we've done work with, like, is this our last project? We're like, oh, this sucks. We're not gonna work with them again. So that's the other thing I always tell our team is like, I want this to be the most different, best piece of content that we've ever produced if it's our last. So as far as like the mental strain, there's the creative side and the client stuff. There's the running your own business and having your own income and working for yourself. And then there's trying to be, a husband and a friend and all that stuff. So the upside is I get to have the freedom and flexibility to go up to New Jersey and work on a Friday and Monday up there and be with my friends and family and not report to a boss. But the downside is like, I don't know like if this will all work out, and I don't know like, and it's tough. It gets very tough. Like I literally woke up at 3 a.m. today, like I said, and I had 3 thoughts, and I was like, I couldn't go back to sleep. That's not normal for me. It's not normal, but like I clearly had something going on. So I went to the gym at 5:30, I swam, and I got out of my head, and now like the day has flown by. So.
What was your favorite project that you've ever worked on?
There's one thing I want to say. I'm going to come back to that. Favorite project, I think, would be would be the GWU Lemonade Day DC project, because we literally immersed ourselves into the GW community for like 5 weeks. We interviewed students, we interviewed the staff here in the advising office that ran this program. We went to all the different schools in the DC area. We interviewed teachers, students. We interviewed the president at the time of Lemonade Day, and they allow and David Ruda and all, like, they literally said, this is what we were thinking. Here's what we need. They helped with logistics, and then they let us run. That's the best project sometimes, where they're like, all right, we trust you. We've talked about what we want, and just go do it. And we'll also help you logistically figure it out. And the cool thing is, a lot of our videos and projects we don't get to see generally brought to life or like debuted in front of people. But that was our first video where we actually were at like an end of year thank you gala for Lemonade Day, and we actually got this presented in front of the PNC sponsors, the GW faculty and staff and students. That was pretty cool. And we'll be doing that tomorrow for this nonprofit video. We'll actually be presenting a video for this 25th anniversary project for another nonprofit. So those type of projects where we like immerse ourselves in a community, find a story, tell the story, and then the client's happy and it has results, those are really good projects. The thing with mental health is I don't really have many other entrepreneur friends or mentors. And so like when I go talk to my best friend John, who is a great businessman, he helps me and he can understand whatever and give me advice, but he also gets a paycheck every 2 weeks. And my wife, and like, so I'm generally on the boat by myself. A lot of people can't relate, like, oh, a client didn't pay you for 6 weeks past due. And then what do, right? Do you yell at them? I'm the small dog, they're a big dog. Like, these are things like I can't talk to somebody that works full time for somebody else. They don't understand, one of the other things that I've done is I've created a savings account for my business for when shit like that happens, when like a client literally forgot to pay you. And like, I want to pay Eric and Josh first. Like, those are the things that like, that really wear on you. And no one else, unless you have other entrepreneurship friends, they don't understand that. Super, super tough.
So as an entrepreneur, all the stress that kind of goes behind
Yeah.
the scenes, do you really stress kind of like a work-life balance, self-care kind of
Yeah.
routine?
Yeah. On Wednesdays, I don't really start, like I'm a morning guy, so like right after the gym from 7 to 8 to 9, like I'm trying to get as much things and caught up and done, but like at 9 o'clock, I won't lie, I fell asleep during This Is Us last night with my wife, and from 9 to 10 today, I watched This Is Us. And then I showered, and then I did some more work, and then I came here, and then I've taught. In between classes, I've done some work, and then I'm here. So like, I know when I like need to like move my schedule around or say no to stuff. But I thrive on being around other people too. So it's a give and take, yeah. But here's the other cool thing is I've created this business in 5 years where like it might sound like I'm working 60, 70, 80, 90 hours a week. I'm not. Yes, some weeks are busier than others, but I've fortunately created a business where like it's manageable. I can have a life. I can enjoy my family and friends and do the things I want outside of work. So that's, I think, the thing I'm proud of. It's not like I'm not working 80, 90 hours a week. Yeah.
Follow with that, do you find like mentoring students and that being part of your philosophy in teaching and just finding what kind of passions you have, meaning students, and
Yeah.
try to find that if they are going to go pursue these, big corporate jobs?
Yeah, yeah. It is. One of the things I think students should do is like figure out what you don't like to do to help you figure out what you do like to do. And I hate students that like they're not in organizations like this, they haven't done a couple internships, they haven't put themselves out there. Because if you haven't figured out what you hate, so the types of people you hate, the type of projects you don't like working on, the type of work environments you don't like, because the minute you start doing that, you start to figure out, okay, like I worked at Booz Allen, don't really like that. Or I worked here, and I really like that type of boss, these are the type of people I need to work with more. So you just need to keep, it's a muscle. I remember the first job I had out of college at Centenary University. I loved my boss and I loved the entrepreneurial spirit, but me and my friend Stacy, who teaches here, Stacy Campese, her and I were bitching all the time about how effed up this culture was and the place was. So like, you'll always find something to complain about, but I think you have to figure out like, does this align with my values? Is it something I'm excited to do work on a majority of the week or month? And if it's not, you should make some decisions.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Maybe two. Go ahead.
You highlighted like the self-doubt when you obviously took that first step. How long did it take you to realize that after that first step with the self-doubt that you were going to be really successful with what you were doing?
I honestly wouldn't say until about 6 to 12 months ago. Like, and I still, like, literally the reason I woke up today at 3 o'clock is I'm like, what if these 3 projects I'm going after for next year don't work out? And I'm literally like, we have nothing lined up for 2020 yet then. So like, but I'm in a place where, again, like I have a financial savings and runway for the company, and we have stuff coming in, and so it never kind of has gone away, but I feel like in the last 6 to 12 months, it's in a spot where like it should be okay as long as I care to it and continue to try to build it, but it hasn't gone away, unfortunately, and I don't think it ever will or should. One more question. Anything out of left field? Anything you want to ask that isn't entrepreneur or business related? Go ahead. Ah, great. More questions like that, guys. More questions like that. I don't know. I'm really right now, for other reasons, I'm really relating to Sterling K. Brown right now. Yeah, like dad version, and the way him and Beth parent is like the way I think my wife and I want to parent someday. Like, yeah. But also the old school version of Jack playing golf with Randall. Like that was me and my, like, yeah. So, yeah. You had yeah.
I read on your LinkedIn that you have a country playlist.
A couple, yeah.
What's your
Fall or summer 2019 I put together when I run, yeah.
What's your favorite country song?
One of the songs that got me into country in college was Luke Bryan, All My Friends. So I'm a Luke Bryan fan. Florida Georgia Line Cruisin' was a great song, but there's country right now is too poppy. I actually don't listen to it much right now. So one more question like that. I like these questions better than the business stuff. Ariane, anything else you want to wrap up or anything you thought of or you're curious about as a student of mine?
Sure. What's your advice for a freshman? For being a freshman, what we should get involved in or stay away from?
Stay away from drugs, no. From what I see from you and some other students I've seen here that I know, you guys you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The thing I don't see students take advice of is get the hell off this campus. You would not believe what's happening on 15th Street with 1776. Go to Crystal City and see what's going to unfold with Amazon coming. And like within a 30-minute Metro Uber ride, like there's just so many cool things happening that you have no idea. Your GWU does a great job of putting some really great big companies in front of your face, and those are awesome. But guys, DC is more than a political government town. There's some great things happening here right now, and you need to look for it. So do what you guys are doing, what I've seen you've been doing, Ariana, but like get the hell off this campus. Please, before the end of the semester, I always put this out in some of the workshops I do, but like if you find an event on LinkedIn, or if you find an event, send it to me, and if I can make it, I will go with you, because I know what it's like to go by yourself and be like, I don't want to be here, like I don't know anybody, and I can't imagine how you guys feel at 18, 19, 20 years old. So like, take me up on that offer. In your college career, if you find an event and you have no one else to go, give me a week or two notice. If I can make it, I'll try to go with you. I seriously will. It's got to be off campus though. Here's one other tactic is this guy, Aleem, that I know, he used to work at Booz Allen or whatever, he DM'd me, say, hey, Kev, what's up, blah, blah, blah. I said, hey, what's keeping you busy? He wrote back. And then I asked him, like, hey, what recent events have you been to, or events are you going to that I should know about? He sent me 2, and now we're going to be trying to go to one in 2 weeks. That's another networking tactic. Like, hey, so-and-so, great connecting with you 3 weeks ago. Like, I found this event. I think you'd be interested. Would you want to go with me? Yeah. I think I gotta run here. So I'll be kind of hanging out here for a few minutes. So if any of you want to come up and have a sidebar conversation for 5 minutes, totally willing to do that. But my wife is picking up for date night at 7:30. So go to afterwards in Kramer Books. Have you guys been to Kramer Bookstore? There's a cafe in the back. Cute little cafe, great date spot, by the way. Go there. Food is great, but then get the goober pie. It's like a peanut butter chocolate pie, and that's the reason we're going there tonight. Great food, and no one knows about it.
All right, let's all give a round of
Yeah,
applause.
thank you guys. So are you guys all pledging, or who's pledging?
That's a brother, that's a brother.
So everybody else is
Back there,
pledges.
everyone. Yep, everyone else.
Cool. Well, good luck. I don't know if you guys have more stuff to take care of, but Ariana, thank you so much. I love doing this stuff. So connect me on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out.
Gift for you.
No way. The smart water?
No way.